Hey everybody, welcome to Coffee with Al and Dave. This is my compadre Dave. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good. I'm good, Alan.
All right, all right. We got a really cool show for you this week. I know we're talking speakers, right? But we're gonna really do it differently because we're different kind of guys, and this is it. I'm gonna put Dave on the spot. I'm gonna use his intellect here. Usually I'm using it as a getaway driver, but we're not ripping Buddy off this week. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically analyze my room, and I want his perspective on how he would do it. So I'm going to give you up to $7,000 to spend. You know how I like to do things. You know how the room is. You know all the obstacles in the room, like the fireplace and so forth, the corners, the book casings. And you understand that we can't tow the speakers in. So we have to be able to
Right.
get imaging off a straight with a space, let's say we're going to the center of the cabinet, probably 9 feet, but I'm sitting 13.5 from the speaker. Okay. Now, I've been torn the last few months trying to figure out what kind of speaker should I go with. Because you understand, I'm really used to the Atom Audio house sound. I've been using them for almost 20 years, and I just adore them. They make one of the best ribbon tweeters in the business, and I just adore them. The problem is that they're DSP. No matter what model I look at these days, they're all DSP. And I wish I could find the old S3s. You remember the old S3s they used to put in the studios back in like 2005 and 7 and all that type of stuff. I
Oh
miss
yeah.
those. I miss those. But you can't find those anymore. unless unless they're
Yeah.
broken. And Adam's answer is, well, we don't fix that stuff no more. So that's a toughie. But I'm gonna have to move away from Atom Audio because, like I said, everything is DSP. And if you know anything about DSP, if it's Atom or it's Head or it's Genelec or whatever, there is a latency timing error, right? It's not a timing error, but it's a lag. So it's like you're buying a TV and you're a gamer, right? And the last thing you want to have is you buy a TV and it's got a 15 millisecond lag. Well, imagine, I mean, for music, having a 15 millisecond lag on the speaker is not a big deal. It just puts it, think of it like you're putting into a buffer. But if you're trying to watch TV with a 15 millisecond lag, that's annoying because everything is off. It's almost like watching Chinese theater, right? It's one of those types of moves. And I don't know how long my significant other would put up with that. So we're now in the idea is it's got to be an analog setup. Now there are a few speakers, and it depends on what you want to spend. I mean, it's definitely going to be a pro monitor for me because I don't want to buy an amplifier and speaker cables. Just get the speaker, put it in there, and plug it in. That's kind of my idea to it. That's my mentality. But anyway, there's not a lot really out there to choose from, right? I think the baby PMCs, the Prodigy is analog for like what $7,000-8,000, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have any bottom end. And then you have ATCs, but that's 25 grand easy. And then you have Focals. I mean, there really isn't anything else out there these days. Atom, Head, all these different speakers are all DSP. And in the pro industry, DSP is kind of it's used as a selling point to say, oh, wonderful, I can do room correction and so forth. You hook it into SonarWorks, which is very popular software to use, and it just does it for you. The problem a lot of times is that you're compensating for lesser quality drivers. And I'm not saying when you're looking at a speaker at $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000, you're dealing with lesser quality. Like in the case of the Atom and the Heads, they spend all of their money on the ribbon tweeter. They're made in house, they're meticulous, and they sound phenomenal. But the other drivers that you get in the speakers may not be the best, or your amplifiers have to be downgraded. Maybe we're using Class G's and stuff like that, which again, you know, is not the warmest sounding amplifier, or the most detailed amplifier. So, yeah, in that $7,000 price range, your window, which starts out to be really wide, the moment you take DSP out, you're coming down to almost nothing. There's not a lot out there now. So we're looking at Focals, two models. Okay. Now you know both of these. I don't know if you're familiar with the new ST model. Okay, I know you're familiar with the old SMs because you're familiar with the SM9s.
Yeah.
And the SM9s are more V-shaped in the middle. Okay, in comparison. So the STs remind me of the baby ATCs. It's
Okay.
an ATC sound without that absolute bottom end on it. Okay, because it's different between a 10-inch driver and a 6 and a 7-inch driver. So the two choices are this: at the bottom end is the Twin 6 STs. Okay, 6.5-inch drivers, beryllium tweeter. Okay, it's now beryllium. And the other one is the Trio 6 STs. Both fit the space, both are analog. Go.
So you want me to decide between those two, or you want me to recommend something entirely different?
No, we're working with those two.
So the ATC and so the Atom older model, and what was the other one? Sorry.
We're working with two Focals. The Twin 6, okay, and the Trio
Okay.
6.
Gotcha.
So it's a difference between a 2.5 that goes down to 40 and the three-way that goes down to 35.
Mm.
They're both roughly the same application. One's about 190, the other's 250. Now you know the size of the room. You know the limitations. Go.
Yeah. Well, if it was my pick, I'd pick the Focal.
Well, I am picking the Focal. Which ones now? Money's no object because we're going Sweetwater Easy Pay. Money's no object.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay.
We're gonna put it on a 6-month Easy Pay. Hey.
Let's see. What were my favorite ones? Is that what they had? Did they switch to those by the time you were in that studio? You came and visited, Alan?
No, when I was over at, you're talking about Platinum?
Yeah.
No, they were still using SM9s. And they don't make those anymore. They're gone. SMs were replaced with the BE series, which is the Trio 11s. Okay. Which I think is the 10-inch version of the 6. And then they came out later with the two versions of the 6. One was which I hate this feature. It's got a auto sleep, and auto. For those of you who don't know, auto sleep is exactly what it sounds like when you're not using your speakers. They switch the amplifiers off and go to standby, and it sounds good on paper until you have to do two things. First and foremost, Focals, when they go off, they make a noise. They make a little doodle type of sound. So if you're mixing and tracking when they go off on you because you're using your headphones or whatever, doodle-doot's in part of your mix and track. Okay, but on the other hand, if you're just listening to it for stereo playback, because they're mastering speakers, in all honesty, because of that beryllium tweeter. They don't always like to come back from sleep mode. So if you have them on stands or they're on your consoles, reaching behind a speaker, flipping it on and off is not hard. Stuffing it into a cabinet, it becomes a pain in the ass. So the nice thing about it is ST now allows you to disable the auto turn off. So that's what we're going to do. Go, Dave.
Nice. So you'd be looking at the ST6 or the Trio 11B, which is the SM6.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'd have a feeling you'd go with the Trio 11B.
Well, I would love to. It's $9,000 for the 11Bs.
Right.
9,000.
But so on a more budget friendly, the ST6, the Twin 6 would be that would fit your cabinet.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at my Atoms now, right? My Atoms right now drop down to 38. They're already down 3 at 38. Even though we get the reinforcement off the cabinet and we can get it down to about 29. The Twin 6 rolls at 40. So let's say with reinforcement, you get it down to about maybe 32, 33 before it breaks up. And with the Trios 6, you probably with cabinet reinforcement get it all the way down to about 25.
So yeah, because I think they go down to 30.
Yeah, 35. So
nice.
You have to give them at least 10 dBs, right, to play with for room reinforcement. Cool. So that's a lot of bass there for such a little speaker.
Yeah.
But that would be so nice.
Yeah. Well, and are they still making those beryllium tweeters on those? I thought they outlawed that material. Was it in Europe?
Both of those speakers are beryllium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because didn't they consider it somewhat toxic?
It is toxic. Don't touch it. Yeah, don't touch it. What they have done, Focal, is that they now put a basically like a guard over top of it. So it's a mesh guard that goes over top of the tweeter. I don't know if they're doing it for the consumer line. Maybe something for you guys to think about when you're buying the Utopias. But my God, have you seen the Utopias?
Yeah.
I mean, for the studio, they have a new mid range.
Oh wow! I haven't seen the new.
The mid range is it's titanium, not titanium, beryllium. It looks to be I don't know. It's got to be about 4, and it's designed like the tweeter. So you get a pair of those in your horizontals, right? So this is the 30,000 model, and they do a mid range like it's unreal. It's like spoken voice right in front of you, right in your face. It's so insane good. Yeah, I had one of the greatest demos not long ago with those in there, and I'm going, almost, if I could figure out where the 30,000 was coming from, I would have bought them. But they were good. They were real good.
Yeah, I like that tweeter. Some people don't prefer the Focal sound, but I like that beryllium. When you get it dialed in and it's
I think
it's not cold. You don't pair it with a bunch of cold electronics because usually you'll hear really like neutral sounding stuff with it. All this, obviously you got solid state and the speakers and all that, and it just goes really sterile. Like
right.
Actually, not the most sterile I've heard. Not like ATC where if you go with that and you got that completely kind of blank palette to work with, but it's still got some pizzazz on it. They're fun, but if you get them dialed in nice and warm and like just rich.
Oh yeah, then she blooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people, when it comes to Focal in general, they always think of Focals of having a more tipped up top end, but it's really not. Okay. I mean, if you're looking at it from like the two-way speakers, then yes, it has a tipped up top end. But if you add that mid-range driver, and like the Trio 6s like we're talking about, that fills in the gap. And instead of it's really more neutral than anything else. Instead of having that slightly. One thing that Focals are known for, because of the way that they do the driver is concave, right? So it comes out like this. That's concave, right? Yeah, it's concave. And the driver itself is almost its own waveguide. So instead of getting this wide off-axis distortion, you don't get that with a Focal driver. So you get more focus of the width than anything else. This is absolutely a speaker that you do not have to toe in unless you're putting it in a large room that's maybe 15, 20 feet wide and your speakers are 15, 20 feet wide. Okay? But if you're setting them up 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 feet, I absolutely wouldn't toe them in. If you're sitting back from them, absolutely. You'll get this beautiful imaging that maybe come off the wall, like where some speakers will put it at the speaker plane or behind. Focals out of the box will put it 5, 6 feet into the room because of the way that tweeter's set up. But the moment that you add your tube gear into it and so forth, she just takes off in this airy thing that's just unreal. Especially if you're like me, where you use the tubes and you warm the sound up. Yeah, you're in for a treat. Absolutely. The only thing that that gets me with the Trio Sixes is that I'm gonna have to flip them. Okay, so where
Ah,
normally we would do it where we put mid and tweet on the inside, right, with the
inside.
base out, because of that, because it's not in the center of the cabinet and it's now off to the side. I have that wall there, and that this is the only thing that's holding me back from pulling the trigger. So instead, you now have to put it on the other side. So now you have a 10-foot span, right? And using the traditional midterm, mid sitting distance, that's 1.5. So I should be sitting 15 instead of 13.5. So you'll get not slightly, your focus will be not completely rock solid, doing it that way. That's the only thing that's throwing me off by it. I know
Wow.
it's a toughie, boy.
Yeah. Well, because you've got the atoms dialed in, they work. They just work
Yeah, right.
in that setup.
So with the atoms, with the highs are in the center of the cabinet. So yeah, everything is completely, literally just dialed in. Um, there's no way that I can push the furniture back any more than what I have it, and still be married. It's just not. I can't see that happening. I would be sleeping in the street. I've got his bar back, and she's going to let me go. Um, so, but yeah, it's a toughie. I really don't want the twins if I can avoid it. I'd rather have
Yeah.
that mid range film, and the extra power would be nice there too. Now, the nice thing that you can do, I know I've turned off all you people. He just babbled for 18 minutes on studio monitor. You don't understand. When you go and you buy a set of speakers, right? If it's cheap speakers or let's say mid-fi speakers, right? I mean, on a cheap, I'll give you a tip. On the cheap, you want to get a nice pair of speakers. Triangle's got a nice pair of speakers for like $1,400. You get $1,400 a pair. It's got that, but it's Triangle Bright though. It has that kind of sound, but it's nice, Dave. They look nice. They come in different finishes and so forth. You want to, you could put yourself a stereo system together for like $4,500. Get yourself an inexpensive tube integrated. Maybe get yourself an inexpensive streamer, and for $4,500, you have a nice system. If you want to step it up, right? You have Ematif, which is right by you, and they have a nice set of speakers now. I mean, they're not fantastic, but with a tube integrated, I tell you right now, you do that, boom, 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 maybe pierce it, put it together like with an Eversole, and for like $6,500, $7,000, that is a kick-ass stereo system. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard them. They only make the one speaker. It's well, that's not true. They have the Air Motion speakers, but this is like a classic line that they're putting out, and it's just sweet like you wouldn't believe. It just sings, it's gorgeous. Um,
Wow.
and then you get into other stuff like we do about the reason for the Pro monitor in my setup though is that I don't have any more room for amplifiers. Okay. Um, because obviously I could buy an amplifier, a pair of speaker cables, and a lesser quality speaker. Okay, that's not an issue. I just have no place to put it. Okay, so you have to go and work with what you're working with. Now, one of the things that you're not taking into consideration when it comes to pro monitors is that those amplifiers, not as much the G's and the Class D's as much, but when you're using AB amplifiers, like in the Trio 6, for example, um, they're real sensitive to what you feed them. So just like a normal amp and speaker where you can dial it in using a specific kind of speaker cable, with the Trio 6s, you can dial it in with any type of heavy gauge power cord. Use it just like a speaker cable. Oh, I'm sorry, they're fused as well. So you can
Mm.
even play with different characteristics of fuses as a final. Now imagine the clips that I showed you the other day, which blossomed an extra 70% from when I did them from you, right? When everything warmed up last night. Um, imagine being able to take a decent, 12, 10 gauge cord to warm it up, just like we did the experiment with the Oppo. Okay. And now one of those colored fuses. It gives you one more tool in your arsenal to get these to sing in the room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to go.
It's not. It's very tunable, and I
Right.
think a lot of people don't realize that about active speakers,
Plus,
and
plus
they've
you get
taken
the
the guesswork out of the amp. I mean, you're getting a good amp, and you don't have to worry about speaker cables.
right, and the amps are paired right for the speaker driver. So instead of having 10 feet or whatever a cable, you have 3 inches of cable, okay, between this driver and the amplifier. So the quality of the amplifier matters less now because you're only dealing with inches of wire versus feet of wire. That's first. Okay, the second thing is that you usually have a plus and minus 3 dB parametric on the back of it. So in most speakers, like a three-way speaker, obviously you can do bass, mid, and high. So with a screwdriver, you go back to a flathead and you just go and dial it in. So that's the other beautiful thing of doing this is that you go out to the store and you buy speakers based on what they sound like. Some people like linear flat speakers, right? And some people like speakers that just blossom and bloom in the room and make it three-dimensional. The problem is that when you walk into Constantine's place or Kevin Deal's place, guess what? What sounds good there is never going to sound the same in your room because they have different size rooms, different mathematics in the room, different absorptions in the room. So it never sounds the same. Whereas you go and you buy yourself a studio monitor, you have a parametric on the back of it. You just dial it in until she blooms. I mean, you're not going to do that per se in a studio. We're just going to dial it into its flat, right? So we can track better. But in your living room, you have an extra 3 dB hump that you could make the bass a little bit more juicy if that's what you want, right? Or you can cut back the top end a little bit if it's just too bright. Now you cut it back and get just enough to get some air on the ride. Bada boom, it's done. So you have a lot of options going this route, but it's up to you. A lot of people can't get over that hurdle of it's a pro monitor. What difference does it make? A speaker is a speaker is a speaker. What is it intended to do? Well, a pro monitor is not intended to be colored. That's bullshit. Jack up the bass on the back end. Now it's colored. I think they're afraid to go and do that. Well, what if I fuck it up? There's numbers on the back. If you start at 0 and you moved it to 2 and you didn't like it, move it back to 0. It's a flathead. What does it take? A minute?
Yeah.
I like it. I don't like it.
Yeah,
You know,
they're versatile. I mean,
absolutely.
you've got versatility with those kind of speakers, which you don't have with
No,
speakers that
it
are not powered, because I'll tell you how many times I've seen people buy too big of a speaker
right,
for
like
their
an
space,
avant-garde or a Wilson or something like
and
that.
it just oversaturates. And then
You
it's like,
know,
okay, now you have to go backwards and get somebody in, and they've had to come in and treat the entire room.
right. See,
And then if they don't know what they're doing, you get a dead room because you just get only absorption instead of diffusion and stuff. Like,
right.
you don't get that mix. And so then it's like, this sounds worse than what you
People,
had before. If you'd just gone with a little bit smaller speaker,
yeah, right,
but with the monitor, you can tune it. So
right.
you
See,
can even get a big speaker and dial it
a lot of
in.
people make the mistake. They read the Stereophile article and they go out and they spend $8,000 on a pair of Martin Logans. The only problem is their room's 10 by 12. What are you going to do with that? If you can't pull the monolith off the wall 7-8 feet, you can't have that. It's just the way it is. Roger Sanders is another good example of that, right? If you can't pull those speakers 5-6 off the wall, don't buy them. Maggie's the same thing. I used to own Planner Magnetics, the old radio line, right? And they were really cool. Radio used to be kind of like a DIY slash consumer line, right? So they had a shell that they would go and stick these planners drivers in, and so forth. The problem is that if you know anything about magnet planar, is that they're really beamy. So you got to do a hard toe in on those bad boys. But they stood about 6.5 feet tall, you know. But back then I had the room to go and use them. That's when Jen was overseas and we had the large living area. But I couldn't use those today, even though I have a large living area. The way that we have our furniture set up in the room, there's no place to stick something like that there. And they absolutely got to be off the wall, even though they don't play nothing below 70 hertz. You absolutely got to take them off the wall, or you don't get any fucking depth. They're that beamy, so you have to go
Wow.
and do stuff with it. Um, but yeah, a lot of speakers are like that. You just make poor choices, and for me, that was a poor choice. I was kind of like trying to figure out which ones do I want to go with. Hmm. And it came down to money. So I ordered I got the radios off of eBay for off places, right? Brand new off of eBay. One of those dealers that, you know, I own them, but I can't warranty them. One of those types of deals. And a pair of Sonus Fabers. And I really, really wanted the Sonus Fabers. The thing was, is that back then they used to sell for about 5,500. You still got to get the stand, so now it's 7,000. And I just didn't have that kind of, that kind of bucks when I was that young. And the Radius, which I could get for $2,500 a pair, which is like a $4,000 speaker. That's how good of a deal it was. And I want the Radius until I discovered all the headaches that I had with them. So next thing I went and I replaced them with the Emerald Physics that you have now, and they weren't bad either. But you need a shit ton. Well, at least they tell you that you need a shit ton of depth behind the speaker, which you don't. Um, the best way to do those is to push them to go and to get it to boost in the room. And because you're using an electric crossover, let that go and cut the frequencies. But they weren't bad speakers. I tweaked those a lot. I put new horns on them, and I hard soldered everybody, and that turned out to be a really nice speaker. Especially using the. Do you use the Room Perfect with it?
I've tried it on and off. Yeah,
Because you got to use the Room Perfect as the active crossover, but sometimes that could turn out to be a really nice setup, especially in a room that you're in right there with all those wall surfaces. They'd be perfect in there, you know.
Oh yeah. Got a little
But
mini
anyway,
cathedral.
yeah, right. That'd be perfect in there. But we're off topic now. But yeah, it was. Do I go Rani or do I go Sonus Faber? And it came out to money. I went to Magnetic Planners, and I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have. I would probably still have the Sonus Fabers today if I didn't do that. But
Yeah.
you think about what the monitors were back then. Now I think they're like $11,000-$12,000 for those. And that's without the stand. So oh, they were such a pretty speaker. They were wrapped in leather. They were so pretty.
Oh wow.
But they didn't have a large driver. I think it was a 6-inch driver or whatever. So you still would have needed a sub with them.
But that is a good tip about those. You have to have the right positioning with those. It's very important.
What's that?
The
open baffles?
Planar, the planar magnetic
yeah.
types. And you got to have a high current amp.
Absolutely. If you don't, boy, they ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, they're not going to sing.
I used to what did I drive those with? I think I drove them with the Crown Studio Reference. Somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, that sounds about right. I first drove them with an EAD theater amplifier, which was like 100 watts a channel. And they were shrilly on the top end. I couldn't drive them hard enough. And then I put the Crown Reference on there, and between the 20,000 dampening factor and the fact that they went several hundred watts, you drove those pretty nice. But that was a nice setup. I used that amp a long time, didn't I? God, I had that, what, 15 years, 16 years? It was a great amp. I missed that amp. It almost, I remember when I was first looking for an amplifier, um, I found it either in a positive feedback or a stereophile article where they're taking that amplifier and they're comparing it to a Krell back in the day. And Krell amps are always linear flat. You know, you have to add a lot of color to them to make them sound good. But I was like, oh no, I don't want linear flat. I already have linear flat with these magnetic flats, right? But yeah, I talked to a friend of mine over at Crown. He said, no, 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 you're gonna like these. They have THX certification. I said, what did you do to them? Well, nothing. They just paid for the licensing. It's the same circuit, though. Okay, okay, okay. I tried it. They went and found it for me. They found me with the last one out at the Lucasville Ranch. They were doing an install out there for them, and they made two extra. That way in case you got a bad one, and they didn't use it. They sent it to me overseas, and I had that amp a long time. I loved that amp. That was a great amp. I miss it. It's such a good amp. But anyway, so do we go with the trios or do we go with the twins, Dave? It's all about placing of that tweeter. Do we put the tweeter in the same place that the Atom's at now, or do we move it in and probably get some reflection off that wall that's coming out?
Wow. Where's the?
Do we sacrifice? Do we sacrifice imaging for the low end, or do we sacrifice the low end for the imaging? There's the question.
Well, in your case, I think you could sacrifice sacrificing the low end is always a bummer.
Yeah, that's right. These are rolling three, a little bit earlier than the Atoms are. So even though the Atoms can go low, you're rolling it a little earlier. So you don't quite get that 29 extension.
Right. So that's a toughie. Yeah, because that one's
even if you flip the speaker, right? Since the tweeter is closer to that sidewall on the one side, the question is, are those Venetian blinds that are there enough where we can not worry about reflection? Where the window is right there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because the Twin 6 has that tweeter. It's like you're saying. It's in the middle of the driver.
Right. So you get an extra 6 inches this way or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that would probably be the safe bet.
And then just lose the bottom end.
See what you could do with the bottom. Alan, all you do is add a sub.
I know. Subwoofer with my.
You should add 4 subs in there. 4.
Were you there the night when they broke the friggin'? We used to have over by the French doors. I know you guys took that one thing down at one time.
Oh, yeah.
I used to have. This is when Charlie was still alive. We used to have a vase that was there, right? And it was, I don't know, 30 inches, 36 inches, whatever. So to keep the vase from falling over with the dogs, Jenny goes to the store and she fills it with play sand. So one night, we're out at a movie or whatever, and the dogs are roughhousing, and one dog threw the other dog into the thing, and it just shatters. I have play sand everywhere. So, no, I'm not putting a subwoofer over there at all. Not with 3 of them now. 70, 80, and 100. No. I'd have to put the subwoofer in the cabinet. And that would suck.
So that answers it.
Yeah, that would
You'd want to go with the Trio 11Bs.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to sacrifice bass.
I've always had a hard on for those, I think it's like 2,500 for the first installment and 900 for the other five,
Ah,
which is fine. I don't got a problem with that.
yeah, right, right.
It's just, yeah, I always had a hard on for those. I'm thinking about, you know,
You have a
tweaking
pair
those
of
with
the
the.
shapes, right? This is it
Yeah,
the
I have the
shape?
shapes, and the
Okay,
shapes are
yeah,
flat to 40, and because of those two passive radiators on the sides. And I'll be honest with you, when I had those set up downstairs, if you were within like 12 feet of it, you weren't missing any bass. And they weren't in a cabinet either. I mean, I had them pulled off the wall by about 30 inches. You weren't missing any bass. I dialed them in, but, they sounded really, really nice. That's why I'm thinking, going with those Trio 6s. It even goes further down. I don't know. It's going to, I have to figure out how to do those tweeters up against the wall like that. I just think I think that's a mistake. I think I need a little bit of distance. That way, it has that arc to come into the room instead of arcing into the wall and coming back,
yeah.
which sucks.
So audiophile wise, you were asking me about the other kind of speakers if you weren't doing an active.
If I wasn't gonna do an active, well, let's see, what do we got here?
The closest, right off the top of my head, to what you like as far as the Atoms, it would be the Wharfdale Elysian 1.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got that ribbon. It's in that range.
Well, I don't
budget.
necessarily have to go with a ribbon. I mean, I do horn drivers and all other type of stuff too.
Yeah.
That's
As
why I
far
was
as the kind of sound I know you would like right off the bat,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it would be almost a drop-in replacement. Of course, you'd have to tweak it, but
Yeah, I'm so used to that Adam, art tweeter. It's just, like I said, I've had them like 17, 18 years in different variations, and it's a good driver. Um, one of the speakers which kind of reminds me of the old Sonus Favors is the Rosa Ferentinos, the little ones.
yeah.
Aesthetically, they look like the old Sonic Favors wrapped in the crocodile and all that stuff like that. But they sound like them too, though.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a trademark of Italian design. But man, they're nice speakers. They really are. But not for me though. I have no floor space to put. I know Kay's going, oh, speakers. No. I have no floor space for them. That's where we're talking the other speakers. No, Jesus, no. I'm really thinking. I'm thinking about what we did yesterday. I started. We're doing a fuse review in another week or so, and I just got them in yesterday. Al sent me enough of fuses to basically choke a horse with. I can do all three systems, so I can see how it phases from beginning to end, or at least with streaming, And so far, it's an interesting ride, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But yeah, to be able to put those in a pair of speakers, that's it. Oh, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking my tweaked mind is going to go down. All right, let's get back to Italian speakers, though. Let's see what we got here. These are really dynamic. These are really great speakers. All right, we're talking about the Pinzan 2, which you can basically do for roughly, well, nobody's going to go to Constantine and walk out with the base model. He's going to talk you into something, right? So let's say you go and you crock wrap it and all that other stuff. Let's say what's 6,200? About right? By the time
that sounds right.
you get them, you get the different finishes on there and so forth. So I know they go for about 5,500. The base model. You still got to get the stands with those and so forth. So by the time you had the stand in there, and like I said, you wrap it, maybe 8,000 for everything.
Mm,
roughly.
yeah.
You know, you got to figure the stands are about what, $1,500
Yeah.
thereabouts. So, but nice speaker, boy, real nice speaker, and you don't need a lot of amperage on those bad boys. You know, you can put you can put like a Unison Research amplifier on those and be really happy. I mean, really happy. Or my Audio Hungary like a P200, and I mean really be happy with those speakers. Um, it's one of those things where one complements beautifully the other. I mean, I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
You know, you get that Eastern European warmth with the Italian detail. That's nice.
Yeah. It's really nice. When I think of those speakers, I just think the word elegant.
Yeah,
It's just got an
exactly.
elegant sound, and it's
It's
not
not
in
like
your
a Macintosh
face.
sound.
Right. Yeah.
I know a lot of people sit back and say Macintosh is just so elegant. It looks elegant, but it doesn't sound elegant. Last time
Right.
Dave and I went to a show together, right? We're walking through the hallway, and there's the Macintosh folks across from us, and we're going. I don't like Macintosh. No, I don't like Macintosh either. We're just fuck this. We're going elsewhere. Yeah, they
We
look
really know how
elegant.
to make friends.
Hey, what can I tell you?
Oh. Yeah,
Can't
no,
make
it's yeah.
everybody happy.
They do. They look nice, but the sound is not as nice as it looks to
Right.
me. It's
Right.
just
I much rather have like a Mark Levinson or something like that. If you're in that price range, I think the Mark Levinson stuff is a lot better. You
yeah.
know, and it's the same price.
Yeah, cuz the Rossos they're um they're not sterile.
No, not at
They're
all.
not a sterile sounding speaker.
No,
It's got warmth.
they absolutely
It's
have
just
character to them, but
yeah.
it's the top end is it's got a sweet character to it. It's got a sweet ring to it, but it's exactly that type of detail that you want to put that you actually want to hear in a speaker. You know, they're not difficult to set up. You can absolutely set them up 2-3 feet from a wall. You know, because you're not using large drivers, so you need a little bit of room reinforcement with them. I think they're rear ported, right? They're not.
I believe
That's
so.
not a sealed speaker. I think they're rear ported. I could be wrong though.
If I remember right, they were. Yeah. Although I don't know. Huh.
Yeah, I can't tell
Yeah, I
from
would
these
think so.
images.
I don't remember now.
Okay, I can't tell from these images because these images are nothing but the crossover and the binding posts. Yeah, I don't know if it's rear ported or not. I think it is. I think the port's up top,
Hmm.
but I'm not 1,000% sure. It's been a while since I've seen them
Yeah,
in
because
person.
the bass was surprising for that
Yeah, it's
size
got
of
nice bass for
speaker.
that size speaker.
Yeah.
So that would absolutely be my first pick as far as a sub under $10,000 speaker setup. That's a nice way to go. I mean, don't get me wrong; they make larger speakers, but you need to have a lot more room in order to enjoy them. And don't another thing when you do these types of speakers, this is more like I know we're talking about room aesthetics, but this is more kind of like a wood flooring type of room that these guys need. You need to have that warmer reverberation in there to get them to sing. I wouldn't put them in a carpeted room. I mean, unless it's wooden carpet, throw areas, and I absolutely wouldn't put them in anything like. See, here's the thing: when you have this kind of speaker, you get a certain kind of client base, right? And I always call them the Marble Four people. And the last thing that you want to do is put a speaker like this or its bigger brother in a room that's wall to wall marble. That just wouldn't
Hmm.
do that. The hard edge off of that you just ruined the top end. It's gone,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter how tall the, the ceiling is, and they always have the big huge windows behind. You're just ruining the sound. This is designed for like maybe like a 15 by 18, 18 by 20 size room, wood flooring, 50-50 on the absorption. You know, you can have leather furnishings, but you got to have an area rug. But if you do that, these speakers are just going to just blow your mind with how good they are. That's another thing that people don't look at. They always just go out and they buy speakers, and they, like before we were saying, well, you have to have a certain type of setup. You really have to have a certain kind of room aesthetics as well. I mean, you just don't go and read a review off of one of the forums and say, oh yeah, I got to have the speakers. You have to. Everything has got to, in order to get that speaker to glow, then you have to have all the right things in place. And some speakers just are not designed to be put in harder sounding rooms. That's another thing with my setup, right? It's wall to wall tile floor, even though I have area rugs. But that tile floor still puts a hard edge on in the mid range. So the last thing you want to do is have a mid range in the room that you either can't adjust or is ruler flat. Because if it's ruler flat, it's not going to sound good. It's one of the reasons why the Atoms are that sound as good as they do in my room. Is they're 2.5 speaker, right? So you get that V shape in the mid range, as far as the cross is concerned. So you get a little bit of that roll off. It compensates for the harder edge of the room. That's how I get all that wonderful warm bloom out of it. But if you go with a more linear, flat sounding speaker, that'll be a hard room to listen to it in. That's a lot of ear fatigue. So make sure that you put your room aesthetics also in the same kind of category. You know, um, let's see. Let's look at something that's a little bit more less problematic for people thinking of the average room. Ooh, that's a nice way to go. That's a nice way to go. It's not Italian though, but it's a nice way to go. Hold on. Constantine. It's like 4,000 pages I got to go down in order to find the driver. You're killing me. You're killing me.
The something like QLN or even the Revival
That's
audio.
what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the 5s.
Nice.
Okay. You can get these in like a nice walnut. Okay. The stands are not expensive. You can get stands for about $600. And we're talking about the Alante 5s. And for about 50, well, it's with the stands, you're looking at about 61. Okay. Not too expensive. And it's such a great sounding speaker. It's a little bit more on the neutral side. It's a pretty looking speaker, though. I'll give it that much, especially in the walnut. It's got a luxurious kind of look to it. It's such a simple cabinet design, so it's cute. But yeah, it's absolutely something I would be looking at for sure. It's not hard to drive. They're generally about 6 ohms. Okay, so you could get away with, like I know he's gonna get pissed I'm saying this, but I'm just it's the only thing that's coming to my mind. You could drive them with like a Prima Luna EVO 100 if you wanted to. Okay, it's only 6 ohms. They're already 90 dBs, so you get a decent thing with them. I know he's pissed at me now, but you don't. What I'm trying to say, you don't have to spend a fortune to go and drive these speakers. So for let's say you have a $10,000 budget, you either get yourself an analog front end or you get a mid-fi digital front end, an integrated amp, and a pair of speakers. For 10,000, that's absolutely a nice sounding system. Yeah, but these are great speakers. A lot of power with these speakers. So if you like a nice, powerful, dynamic sound quality, this is it. They also have that wonderful tweeter, so you get that nice, you get that refine. What is the tweeter silk though? Do you know?
It looks like it is. It's
I know they say
it is
it's
soft
dome.
Yeah.
But do they consider that a silk dome?
I don't know. They're calling it the RASC, but it's trademarked.
Right.
So I'd be curious to know what material it is. Let's see.
And this is a three-way speaker that we're discussing here too. So you get a nice balance of sound, right? So, I mean, you're using a 3-inch on the 5s here. You're using a 3-inch mid-range driver, which you're also saying is a soft dome. And then you got the 12-inch, which is a sandwich basket. They're saying that the impedance on the 5s do go down to 4. All right, so maybe the EVO 100 is a little undersized. Only 89 decibels on the sensitivity. They go down to 28? Holy shit.
Jeez.
That's a lot of bass, man, for a speaker with that size.
Yeah.
That price tag?
Wow.
They go all the way down to 28 at -3. That's fantastic. Cross is not bad, 450 and 3.5, so you don't get too much of a sibilant noise. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, because one of the designers was, this company's a couple guys. One of the guys was with Dynaudio.
Right.
And then the other guy was with Altec Lansing, Focal.
Right.
And a couple other technical companies. So you got a good blend of
engineering talent. Yeah. Very interesting.
And especially for the price. I mean,
to be able to do like I said, the 5s are fantastic. Down to 28 for $6,100 for everything. That's insane.
Wow,
that's insane. And it's not like the Rossos where it starts out in the different finishes. You get pick and choose between the two, and the walnut was very pretty. For the same price, they're not even screwing you on the finish of the cabinet. So that's cool. Now another speaker which is really good. Now we're gonna get into a different kind of driver here. It's Coherent. I know you're not a big fan of concentric drivers. I like concentric drivers. Always did. Always liked things like Tannoy, the old Tannoys. Now, when I say the old Tannoys, I'm not talking about the drivers that you go and you go to your favorite audio store and buy. I'm talking about the old studio drivers like Abbey used to have and so forth. They were so gorgeous sounding. Oh my God, I miss those. I got to listen to those a few different times when I was overseas. I miss those. They were good. They still have it. But anyway, this is more like Coherent is more of a coaxial style of driver, which is different, right? They're made in Canada, and let's see, let's find a decent model here for them. Here we go. These are 4 standing. Go up, will you, please? Stupid thing. I hate this layout. All these different dropsies. What do we got here? I'm looking at the 10s. I think they have what? They have a 10-inch driver in them? Yeah, 10-inch driver. It's coaxial. Let's see what we're looking at here as far as the sound. The -3 at 30. And they have a built-in super tweeter. This is the one that the super tweeter's built in, right? It's not a second piece that you have to buy.
Right. Yeah, it is built in.
Right. So
yeah.
This is basically 30 hertz up to 150K. Can you imagine the air that you're going to get off of this speaker in your room? Okay, and you say, well, where does a speaker like with a super tweeter really work? Again, you're back into two things: either an all carpeted room or a 50-50 room where it's half wood, half area rug. And if you can do that, and super tweeters on the back, right, of the speaker, or is it on the front?
I actually don't remember because the super tweeter's an option.
Right. I thought it was on the back. I don't know. But anyway, you're talking about an 8 ohm speaker. It's got a sensitivity at 94, so you don't need anything on this bad boy. Okay. Yes, you need a tube amplifier with it. Again, Unison Research, get an integrated from them. It's perfect because it's 94. So you get yourself a Class A Unison, right? For a few $1,000s, or about 5,000, right? And really be thrilled with it. Yeah, the Super Tweeter is an add-on, but it doesn't tell us how much. Not at least not on that page. Okay, you gotta link this stuff, baby. And he doesn't. Shit. But they are a nice sounding speaker. If you, like I said, if you like tannoy speakers, if you like fine audio speakers, even if you get a kick out of what Andrew Jones is doing for MoFi in his own product line, this speaker fits right in that category. Has a very similar sound quality. It doesn't quite sound like a coaxial speaker. You get the imaging of a coaxial speaker, but you don't get the thinness of a coaxial speaker. It's not like, taking like a pair of Keps, and Keps are great imaging, no bottom end. You know what I mean? This has bottom end and the imaging combined. And if you add that, like I said, if you have a room where you have some carpet in there and you go with the Super Tweeter option, that's going to be one holographic sound quality, boy, let me tell you. Especially, like I said, with a tube integrated, you're going to enjoy that. I know. Everyone's saying, you keep pushing tubes, Alan. We don't like tubes. Why not? Tubes are fantastic. You know what I mean? I think they all have the impression that tubes still make noise. Modern day tube designs don't make noise. They're silent. It's not like something that you bought off of eBay that's fucking 45 years old. Those are noisy. The modern day ones, they're quiet. They have efficient power supplies, which is why they're quiet. A lot of them use, the DC cancellation, filters built into them, so you don't get any hum off of them like you used to. So I just think you're not getting all the options right. You're thinking, no, I don't want to go that route, but you should. It especially now. I told you my tube broker, retired. Jonah Oas has bought the place, and he's now open for business. Okay, he doesn't have a website set up just yet. They're still fucking with that. But if you know that you're looking for something, you just send John an email. He's ready to go. So all your popular tube sizes, your 12AXs, your JH7s, your 300Bs, your 2111s, they're all, he's got all that stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, to speak to that coherent, I'd heard the 12 and then the 18 reference.
The 18's are real nice.
Boom. Yeah, yeah. Really nice. Yeah, there's something about if you've got room, an 18-inch driver, it's going to move some air.
And it also depends on the kind of music you like to listen to. So if you're into like death metal, you don't need an 18-inch driver unless you want to break your windows. On the other hand, if you want to listen to the 18th Overture, 1812 Overture, that 18-inch driver is going to sound real nice for those cannons, right? Even though the cannons are fake, if you're looking at the Telok, they only had those in because the ribbons collapsed when they were recording it.
Right.
But it sounds so good, man. Boom, ba, 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 da. Yeah, I love it.
And even on vocals, if you like, especially female vocals.
Oh yeah, you get a more majestic sound.
Yeah, you get that big sound like you're up front row at the jazz club, right?
I remember the first time that I set the JBLs up. Right, I had them the other way on a Soundacre stands, and I'm dialing them in to Cass, And once I got it just right, you know, that chestiness, because I have 15-inch drivers, and it was a pair of 15s, and the chestiness that just came out of there, you swore that she was in the room with you. You know, it just really gorgeous. And right, it's that in person style of sound, you know, that you just can't get with it with a 12-inch driver or something smaller than that. It's got to be
Yeah.
15 or larger. Yeah, the only reason why I had to go and flip them the other way is one of the cabinets vibrate. So I guess one of the glue joints on the inside gave way. So when you flip it, it damps it, doesn't vibrate.
Nice.
But even then, I'm still getting really great imaging. I sent you a text last night, right? Um, this is after the tubes have been turned on for like 5 hours. So I go upstairs and I just flip on the Avengers movie just to listen to sound the first 20 minutes. And there's a scene in there where in the beginning of the movie, Sam Jackson's talking to this wall of screens, right? And you know they're all saying, well, you know, anyway. And what happens is that right here's your wall of screen. Here's Sam Jackson. All of a sudden, the camera pans like this, and the screens are now off camera, off camera, outside of the right speaker plane, up about 7 feet up in the air. I have each distinct vocal a few feet off of each other. David almost wrapped all the way around to the side. I was like, what the? We're going to be talking about this in about another week or two. I was like, holy shit. I've heard nice, good off axis panning, you know, but never like that, you know, unless it's a multi speaker or setup, not from two speakers. So I was impressed that I was able to get that much off axis on it. And yeah,
Wow.
it right now because everything is fresh. There's zero depth, right? It just doesn't have any warmth into it. But being able now just to hear really the mid range and the upper, so you get the out of phasing. It's so 3 dimensional. It's on the ceiling. It's behind you. It's to the sides. It's going to be enjoyable watching a movie with that setup. It really is. I don't want it to go. Like I said, I'm excited about it because I was having fun with it yesterday. Well, you saw I was texting left and right. But we'll get more into that in another week or two. Oh, that was so nice. Okay, I'm done.
So Alan, to kind of finalize, so if you're going with the active speaker, you'd go with the Focal
Oh yeah.
as a change of pace.
Well, the change of pace started with those shapes. I mean, you got to say, I've heard the SM9s, multiple times before, and I always liked them, but it's not like, it's not a cabinet speaker because it has a top resonator. So when I dipped my toe in with the shapes, it was really to kind of see what the aluminum and magnesium driver really sounded like, and for the price tag, what they produce is insanely good. I haven't even tweaked them outside of just dialing the crossover in, but really insanely good. And I do know that the beryllium tweeter is even more so in the extension. So that really makes the most sense as the way to go, especially if you need to put it in the cabinet. It's got to be front ported, and both of those speakers give you the options. It's just I mean the twins are the safe bet because it lines the tweeter up where the atoms are now, and you're already set up for that. Even though on paper you lose the bottom, that's the whole thing. I'm second guessing myself because on paper you lose the bottom end, but on paper the atoms lose the bottom end too. And what's the difference really from a 6.5-inch driver versus a 7-inch driver? Single, maybe about 3 hertz. Double, maybe about 1 hertz, 1.5 hertz.
Mm.
So it's a different. It's a different way to look at it. It really depends on the crossover on the inside. Is that second driver in the twin? Is it playing full range? See, in the Atom, it's not. Okay, so the Atom goes, up. You have the one driver, which they call the sub driver, goes up to 160, and then the other 7 inch picks it up from 160 and goes into roughly about 3, and then crosses into the ribbon. Um, how does Focal do it? Does Focal have both drivers playing the bottom end, even though they cut one? You know what I mean? So one they both handle the bottom. One gets cut, the other one handles the mid range, and you cross in. You're still crossing at 3. So do you lose anything off of that? Like I said, if that crossover has that second driver playing at 120 hertz to support the other one, then you lose nothing. You know I'm going to send you to Vintage King. You know that.
Right.
He's got to know. I just got to
Yeah.
know. Oh, I wish I had one of those around here. We used to have a Sam Ash around here. They fucking closed last year.
Mm.
It's, the nearest thing for me, I have to go back up to Nashville if I want to look at anything else. Either Nashville or Chicago. Take your pick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, Alan, if you want to spin it the audiophile route, what speaker?
If I was to go and buy a
non-active,
an active audiophile.
Sorry, non-active.
I was going to say, if you go an active audiophile, they're all locked into 2496. And there's options at that. There's options at that playing field. Probably the best known one is the Phantoms, right? They probably do bass the best out of all of them. I think they're using a ceramic driver. But again, I don't want to go wireless, and I don't want to go 2496. As far as a standard speaker, I like Fine Audio. They're nice, but I can't put them in a cabinet. Some speakers that you can put in a cabinet that'll fit the space. So that's tough.
Yeah.
Can't even, I mean, maybe, no, that's still Tannoy. I was going to say maybe Klipsch, but you don't want to put Klipsch in a cabinet. That would be bad. Because then it gets real horn wonky.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's toughy. Most audiophile speakers, they have to use the rear port there for reinforcement. JBL's front port them, but they have that shitty titanium tweeter that everybody brags about, which I hate. Well, listen, I have it here on the horn driver, and you don't know the half of what I go through here to go and get that to sing. That's it. It gets expensive after a while. Well, nothing that's on Constantine's list here, because everything here is really 4. Sorry, Kay.
The only thing, yeah, I mean, you might be able to fit some of those Revival monitors in there, but then those only
I
looked at
those. Yeah, I can't get them to fit.
Oh,
yeah, I thought about them.
Gosh,
and I said, what if I went that route and I got the P200 to match the preamp? I did think about that, but no, I can't get them to fit. It's first and foremost, the cabinets are not the same on left and right. So on one side it's 22 1/4, the other side is 21 3/4 in the width. They're both 13 1/4 high, and then I got and then they're 28 deep. So I got to be real careful on the width there. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Just flip the speaker over and call it a day. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still looking at those Focals. I don't know. Listen. There's nothing wrong with the focals. I keep going back to that. Yes, I keep going back to the focals because I'm spending money. That's why I will sit here and go over this about a million times in my head before I spend 10 cents. But
Uh,
the twins they have the right size. They are tweakable. So even if they don't extend, you can plump the bass up a little bit to make it sound like it extends. You can correct the bass between the corner over here and the non-corner on the other channel, and you can fuse them. And like I said, those fuses last night, Dave, the sound was over here. Not like out of phase, to the hard right of me. It was like mid right, but one of them was 3 feet off the speaker plane, 5 feet off the speaker plane, 7 feet off the speaker plane. I've never heard two channel imaging in that room do that before like that.
wow.
Where it literally mirrored the screen, so you could actually imagine it being actually in those spots. It was insane, and it's airy, but it's airy in a way that's like eerie. It puts you in a much larger room. Like I was sending you music files, right? So I was using Fagan, which has a thinner production value on that album. But the moment that I switched into things like movie soundtracks, like T2, the opening scene where it's the futuristic laser beams going around, yes, laser beams going all over the place. The moment that it locks in and he's now in the parking lot, everything just went and locked right onto the screen. So it does out of and in phasing for just insanely well. I mean, of course, that's the amplifier and the speaker, and I'm just dialing the harmonics in to do it. But I was impressed. So it's going to be a good review coming up, which is bad because I make one of my own, by the way, which does similar things, like this. But it'll be neat to compare notes in house. So
Yeah.
what's going on for the rest of the week?
Oh, just the usual.
Yeah.
Trying to think of something exciting going
Yeah,
on.
no, same here. Same here. What's exciting?
I've
Well, the
actually
only
got to
thing
fix some soft dome tweeters. Try the old masking tape, painter's tape method.
oh, really?
Replaced a new pair, but the old ones, want the old ones done.
Whose
Had to
speakers are
repair.
those?
Just a local customer.
And he
So
wants to. He doesn't want to replace the driver.
those are the tweeters were replaced new, but to try to salvage the old one of the old ones that was bent up. Those
Ah,
Dino Audio tweeters. So, which are they? Do they get damaged once they get pushed in with that material?
yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
gone.
what I figured.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's not going to be. Don't even waste your time. It'll be unsatisfactory. Yeah, it'll be distorted. But and he doesn't want to go and just switch them out completely and do something different.
yeah. Already did that, but
Okay.
just to save, I guess a pair of the old ones because the Dine Audio stopped. We were talking about stop the North American
Well, they're gone.
distribution.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
gone. I mean, that
So
was the other thing too. If you guys are like cable fans, right? You like to play with cables in your system. MIT, end of this month, they're gone. They closed up shop too. So that's another company that's out of the works, out of the business. So yeah, audiophile businesses are shrinking. The Chinese are kicking the shit out of them. So cheaper stuff means cheaper pricing.
mm,
And it's just it's the end of the business. It's a shame. I mean, MIT used to make some interesting. I was never a big fan of it putting caps and resistors in the cabling, but you know, uh, it worked. It got rid of ringing distortions and so forth, and their stuff really did sound very nice. Expensive, but you know, And like I said, they're another company that's fallen wayside to the middle class's disposable cash is now gone, because of inflation, and they're now the millionaires aren't spending any money, so they're looking at the billionaires class, and most of them are not buying your stuff. There's a reason why they're a billionaire. They don't spend any money. You know, I used to hang out with a lot of billionaires when I lived overseas. We go down to Monte Carlo and stuff like that, and they all dock there, and they would dock. They would go grocery shopping. They bring their own food in, and that was it. It's not like they ever got off the ship and they hit one of the local restaurant. They don't do that type of stuff. There's a reason why they have the money. They don't spend it. you know. That's the case with everybody, though, right? You get to a certain dollar amount because we know people that are like that. They don't spend the money. They have it, but that's why they have it. You know. But that's the thing. The audiophile business has kind of shifted that way, and it bit them in the ass. It's just they're going out of business almost monthly now, and if they're
Mm.
not going out of business, they're being bought out by somebody, right? I mean, Dyna Audio, Sonic's Favor, Macintosh, everybody under that umbrella. Manly last month, now MIT. You know, it's going quick.
Yeah. I guess we'll see where it goes.
How is
But
how is our friend doing? Is he closing up shop, or is he staying in business?
um I think things are just rolling along
Because I,
for
I
the
I
for the
thought
meantime.
I thought he was thinking about moving.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't blame him, but don't move. Don't move. you know. Anyway, all right, Dave. What do you want to do next week? Do you want to do another? I don't want to do MoFi because I'm waiting for stuff to come in. Do you want to do the fuse next week?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll send you more clips during the week. 'Cause I know you just said you can hear the difference between.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm gonna mail them over. I'm gonna send them over, and then I can listen through a setup too, so I can.
Okay.
Yeah, because I could hear it right off the phone. I was like, "Wow, that's shocking."
Yeah, so let me get them warm up for a few days. What a lot of people don't realize is that depending on where the fuse is in your system, right? Let's say that it's wired into the IEC socket, the pull out ones. Um, if your component is on or off, that fuse is always in the circuit. So it's just like think of it like plugging a QPI in, for example, right? Which is a floating circuit. You plug the QPI in because it has current that's moving past of it. It's able to induce that current, and you get all the harmonic richness off of that. Well, a fuse is very similar if it's in this location. So you go and you put it in, you plug your cord in, you flip the component off, but all the harmonic richness of whatever cord that you meticulously place on that component and that fuse are now still in the loop with everything else that's turned on and receiving power. So think of it also like a parallel filter on a smaller scale. So all those fuses, even though you don't have your CD player on, for example, they're still actually breaking in just for the fact that it has an induced field that's still feeding it. Now, on the other hand, if the fuse is on a circuit board, then generally it's behind the switch in most cases. Like a Chinese or a Japanese design, the fuses are always behind the switch. But in a European or an American, a lot of times, or like I said, or it's in one of those non-switched IC sockets, it's always before the switch. So in those cases, you don't actually have to turn the component on. So here I just put a whole bunch of fuses. And like I tell you, Al sent me enough to choke a horse with. So in the system that we're going to use over here, I have them all there. So he sent me a whole bunch of Synergistics pinks that are in all the Richard Gray stuff. So I have the 1200S, I got the 400S, I got the two pig poles. They all have pink in it. Then he sent me a master that's in my MyTech Manhattan too. Then he sent me the new holographic, which is in the Prima Luna 400. So you get a multi-layered approach, and we're going to teach you how to go and do that, because different manufacturers, like from right now, I only have the one model, right? It has 3 different harmonic values on it. It's all built into the one model. Okay, eventually I'll reintroduce other series of fuses that do different harmonic structures. But other companies that only do the single style fuse, you won't be able to do this with. But any company that gives you 2 or 3 different models, you'll be able to do what I'm going to describe that I'm doing with the Synergistics fuses. So take note. We'll come back next week and do this. It's going to be a lot of fun and so forth. I have to go and do an interview. Andrew is going to interview me this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to talk about my new program versus his new program. So we're going to go back and forth. So that'll be interesting.
Nice.
All right, folks. Have a happy. We'll be back next week. And take care. Take care, Dave.
All right. Thanks, Alan. See ya.
All right.